Hi again, this is Dreamon and welcome back to a new video in a new series I'm currently gonna do in between some games I'm playing. Because I can't really release 2 videos each week about a game because there just ain't enough games around for that, and sometimes it takes almost a full week for me to play a game to develop a proper opinion about it. So, what will this new series be about? Not reviews actually, but more like an opinion I have about certain game genres or publishers and developers. Now, this first video will be about 2 companies that definitely left their mark in the gaming industry. Everyone has heard of them and everybody has been ripped off by them at least once in their gaming history. Whether it has been by their pre-orders, DLCs, microtransactions, or just a failed launch of an overhyped game where they couldn't fulfill the expectations of their customers, and who makes gaming veterans puke by just thinking of them. Of course, I'm talking about EA and Activision. Now, this video will either make or break my channel. It's that simple, because both of these companies are not very fond of criticism. So if my channel or this video gets deleted, then you know what happened. By the way, in each point I mention, I will compare both to each other, because both of them are trying to compete with each other and are constantly flying at each other's throat. Fight! So let's get started and see where it all went wrong with them. Man, I really miss the days where gaming was just a fun little industry where games were made with quality to please the people who bought it. Now it's all about who makes the most money. Now, the one which wins in this field is definitely EA, because in the sheer number of crappy titles they released by, for example, rushing them to the deadline that they themselves put on it. Now, the reason why they rush it is because they need money bad, really bad, because their shareholders and stocks won't stay positive any longer. But how they got this deep covered in shit is completely their own fault, because they try to sell us one farce after another and expect us to pay full price for it. Not to mention they expect us to pay for the DLC, which are there because they left stuff out of the full game on purpose, so they could earn something extra on it.
Excellent.
With this course EA is taking, I think it won't be long before EA goes down altogether. There are enough people who are waiting to get payback on EA.
Surprise, motherfucker!
Now, Activision isn't much better. They used to be good in the past, just like EA was, but ever since the stock market came on the stage, both these companies went all out with mass-producing games at a cost and effort that is preferred by them to be as low as possible, with a small development team, but at the same time they still push them towards an often impossible deadline. But Activision is even better at cutting costs than EA, because EA works with many different developers which own a lot of different engines. However, Activision works together with only 3 companies these days: Blizzard, Treyarch and Infinity Ward, of which the last 2 are completely focused on COD games alone, which is the franchise that defines recycling and cost reduction. Now, the COD franchise only uses one engine, and even Call of Duty Ghosts, which was claimed to have a brand new engine, is still an updated version of the old engine. So Activision is betting all their money on one engine and tries to get the most out of it by dirty tactics. They thought they could get away with this every year, but now even they need to face the ugly truth that their last 3 COD games sold less and less each time, because they thought they could play us all for a fool time and time again. Now, this is what happens if you don't listen to your customers and treat them like idiots. You'll eventually get burned because you play with fire. And there is nothing worse than having an angry mob at your door who are ready to kick down your door and eat you alive. Oops. I meant burn you alive. Just never mind. Like I mentioned before, both companies treat us like idiots who apparently can judge things properly for themselves and will step in the same old cow dung over and over again. But us, gaming veterans, aren't stupid. The younger generation isn't really stupid either. The problem is that they just have never known any better, so it's a lot easier to influence them with DLCs and stuff packs because they're naive. Now, I'm not gonna rant on about DLCs because that's for a different video, but being naive doesn't mean you're stupid. It just means that you do not possess the proper knowledge yet to assess and judge the things you see or experience in a senseful way. Now, EA is not the worst one in this field this time, although they do think they can trick us each time with pre-order bonuses into buying a game that will probably suck, or release patches under the disguise of paid DLC so they can earn something extra on a failed launch. But the one which leads in this field is Activision. Activision tries to fool us with Call of Duty for years now. They're already at the 9th game with the same engine, and which is also released for the 9th year for each year in a row. Now, these Call of Duty games are the pinnacle of recycling and cost reduction, because we're obviously not talking about making your workforce work efficiently anymore. They do this purely to save costs in development, and that the millions they save can be put into advertisement for hyping the game with cool trailers and commercials, and think that the fools we are to them won't even notice it.
Do I look like a white guy named Ward?
Well, we do notice it. We notice it very well actually, because the complaints about the Call of Duty games the last 3 years has been at an all-time high. It has become a game you either love or hate, and I think this game should show on its cover you either love it or hate it, instead of all the fake or bribed comments that come from IGN or GameSpot, or several other unknown review sites that just claim Call of Duty is good so that they can attract more attention to their site and gain more advertisement revenue. And don't be fooled, people, because the reviews for Call of Duty Black Ops were actually heavily influenced and bribed by Activision, because that same year they leaked an article about the reviewers from the biggest sites who were sent to a spa in Spain with all options included to relax and play Call of Duty Black Ops in the sun at a pool with lovely women around them, in exchange for a good score on their sites. But in the end, it's pretty funny, because I consider the bribing and effort they put into faking the good comments and scores as a compliment to our intellectual capacity, because that just shows that they think we're smarter if they put so much effort into faking all of it. Now, in this point we can bash a little further on EA again, because EA is the frontrunner in ruining franchises in the entire game industry. Let me explain a bit first. Imagine that you're a small game developer and you got a good game. Then you usually need to attract a lot of attention to yourself in order to sell your game, because otherwise your game will drown in the sea of games that are released simultaneously or within the same 2 months of your game's release. Now, the obvious choice to gain some time in the spotlights is to pick a huge well-known publisher, because not everybody has the same luck of Bethesda Softworks to become your own publisher and still get plenty of attention with it. So, what do you do as a small gaming company? You simply go to EA because they're the biggest fish in the sea, and you let them look at your concept or game. Then EA decides to fund your project and you happily sign a contract of over 50 pages long that you probably never read. So this is where EA got you by the balls, because on those 50 pages you wouldn't read, EA has hidden the lines that explain that they can do whatever the heck they want with you. They can even fire people from your company's team and kick them out of the window for all they care, without you being able to do anything about it. Now, this may or may not mean that they can also push the deadline on your future projects within that franchise, or order you to alter the game the way they seem fit, otherwise they won't release the game. Now, I'm not saying that all the bad design decisions in games that were published by EA were their responsibility alone. For example, the crappy controls and ending of Mass Effect 3, which was entirely up to BioWare themselves to decide. But I'm talking more about steering games more into mainstream, or rigging it full of microtransactions and DLCs. Now, I'll give you a few examples of franchises that went wrong under the reign of EA in the next minute to show you what I mean. Now, I named it before and I'll start with this game too. Mass Effect 3, which was ironically nicknamed as Gears of Effect when it was released because it resembled Gears of War so much. So many depth to the story and role-playing elements were removed from the game. Everything became so generalized for the casual gamer, and the game hardly resembled anything of the features that made the Mass Effect franchise great in the first place. Besides that, the multiplayer was full of microtransactions, and both the single player and multiplayer got over 10 DLCs, of which over 6 costed you money, including the storyline for the Proteans, which was part of the clue for the goddamn story. The next one was Crysis 2, which felt very linear in level design compared to the first game. which was known for its open jungles instead of the streets of Manhattan. Now some abilities of the suits were also simplified and the game was made a lot easier than before. Now the next franchise that got generalized for the casual mainstream audience was Dead Space. Where the first game was all about horror, Dead Space 3 changed all that and was all about hoarding items and more action. You could hardly even call it a horror or a survival game. There was plenty of ammo around, and with the abominable microtransactions in the single player, you could buy unbelievably powerful weapons, which weren't available otherwise. Another franchise that got ruined recently was SimCity. I think it's fair to say that the problems at launch and the restrictions within the game, which included 2 small cities and the game's DRM or always online features, made sure of it that nobody would pre-order a game of this franchise ever again. Another franchise that got ruined is Battlefield. Ever since Bad Company was released, it has all gone downhill for this franchise, although not as bad as other franchises, but still very noticeable. Battlefield 3 and 4 were released so close together and are so similar to each other that they even share the same bugs and crashes at launch. Since Battlefield 3 they also implemented microtransactions in Battlefield. Now if we're talking about milking franchises, I got a few to name for this as well. For example, the Need for Speed franchise, which has even recycled some of its older titles like Most Wanted, because there came so many games out in this franchise that they even have trouble finding names for them lately. They even made a movie about it so that people might actually become more interested in the games again. In fact, every sports game under EA is milked every year again and again and again. I don't even try to understand why those games keep selling. It's an even bigger mystery than the Call of Duty sales records. Finally, the perfect example and the pinnacle of greediness with DLCs, stuff packs and expansions is the Sims franchise. This franchise is rotten to its core. The Sims 3 has nearly 10 expansions and dozens of stuff packs where they all charge ridiculous prices for. They charge €30 for an expansion which adds either 2 jobs or the ability to get married, go on vacation or go to a college, and some different types of toilet paper for your house to decorate with or whatever. And they're all separated into different expansions which all cost the same price of 30 to 35 euros. They're not even worth that price if all of those features were combined into one expansion. Now, I don't understand who buys these things lately, and I don't promote pirating games, but dear God, if there is one franchise that deserves to be pirated, it's The Sims, by a long shot. There isn't a single franchise that comes even close to this kind of behavior and extortion of the consumer. If there was a medal for the best extortion or profiteering, then I think The Sims would even win from the outrageous taxation on the middle classes in America and Europe. Now speaking of medal, the Medal of Honor franchise has been shut down and won't be worked on any longer. So this is the perfect example of where EA pushed it a little bit too far and actually got the franchise cancelled.
And you fail!
Now to come back to the Call of Duty franchise, this franchise has known a slow decline in sales the last 3 years, and since the complaints about Call of Duty games reached a bigger record than its sales record, Activision has been in denial and gone on the defense. Now Activision claimed until recently that their games, and I quote, can't be bad because they break sales records every year. Now sure, the sales break records every year, but so do the complaints. Every year the complaints grow and grow, and the sight of people with the complaints has become so huge that it can't be ignored anymore. Even former fans of the franchise have turned away from Activision and Infinity Ward. This has truly become a game that you either love or hate. So there's almost no neutral zone or grey area. It's either black or white. There are even people who buy the games and hate them at the same time. How weird is that? Now for those who do not follow the gaming news, EA has been voted as the worst American company of the year. Of all the companies that cheat on their taxes, fire people by the hundreds or extort and treat their employees like dirt, EA won from them. It didn't only win from Activision, it won from everybody. From companies that haven't even remotely anything to do with gaming. Now that is a prestige prize that belongs on the wall. Now Activision isn't much better either, but at least Activision has shown some form of improvement lately, which I will explain later in the video. Now I don't know which of both is worse in terms of morality, because both of them try to cut on resources and mass produce games while they put all the money into hyping the game instead of the development itself. It's just a matter of which of the two is the lesser evil, or what do you prefer better? EA, who ruins franchises and is the king of DLCs and microtransactions to earn quick and dirty money, or Activision, who is known for their ultimate recycling behavior to cut corners and reduce the effort to bring the production costs to a bare minimum. Well, statistically speaking, EA is the worst at the moment in my opinion, and not because they were voted the worst American company of the year, but because they have ruined more franchises and screwed up more game launches than Activision. At the moment, Activision is only ruining the Call of Duty franchise and is partially to blame for Diablo 3's bad launch and its real money auction house. But EA has ruined so many more franchises. I've mentioned them before in this video, so I won't be mentioning them again, but I'm sure everybody who knows something of games can name at least 5 franchises that went downhill under the reign of EA. Recently, EA announced that they will try to redeem their reputation and become the best American company of the year.
Morning.
Okay, now seriously, they actually said that. Well, since they're an American company, everybody has the right to dream about the American dream, right?
Holy shit.
Or whatever that was again. I think that this wouldn't happen in a million years, because EA is a company that has spent over a decade to fine-tune the art of extorting and profiteering from their customers, treating them like dirt and giving them broken and half-finished products. Then I think that Al Bundy has more chance to win the Sexiest Man of the Year award. Now in the Call of Duty franchise there have been attempts to freshen up the game's image too, like for example putting Black Ops 2 in a futuristic setting, but that's all small stuff. It doesn't change enough to the game, but at least it's an attempt. So you can give credit for effort to Treyarch and Activision for that at least. And recently Blizzard has announced that World of Warcraft might become free to play in the near future, and since Blizzard and Activision merged in 2008 and Vivendi was bought out of the deal by EA this year, Activision is now the one that dictates most of the company's decisions, meaning that the decision to make World of Warcraft free to play is a big deal and really unlike Activision's normal behavior. So who knows, maybe it will all fall into place again, like a cat landing on its feet.
Oh my god.
I'll see you guys next time.